We begin with those planned tariffs on products from Mexico, Canada, and China, which have the potential of impacting your bottom line.
Now, this was a promise that President Trump made before taking office in the White House, announcing it will take place tomorrow.
The president will be implementing tomorrow a 25% tariffs on Mexico, 25% tariffs on Canada, and a 10% tariff on China for the illegal fentanyl that they have sourced and allowed to distribute into our country, which has killed tens of millions of Americans. These are promises made and promises kept.
As you heard there, the plan to implement 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada and 10% on China. These tariffs mean U.S. companies buying the imports will have to pay a percentage extra to the U.S. Treasury.
Trump's pick for Commerce Secretary argues this will pressure American companies to buy from domestic producers while serving as a leverage against the three countries. But many economists say tariffs typically lead to higher prices for consumers on everything from groceries to cars and electronics. Tonight, 7 News reporter Derek Hyde is sharing voices from both sides of this tariff tug-of-war and how local lawmakers are already pushing back.
President Donald Trump is on the verge of imposing tariffs on all Canadian goods. Here in Buffalo at Rigidized Metals, I'm told that could be a very, very bad thing.
I've been here for 85 years, and we've oftentimes had a Canadian flag flying here.
The White House announced that starting Saturday, President Trump will impose a 25% tariff on all imports from Canada. Rigidized Metals has operated in Buffalo's Old First Ward since the 40s, and Richard Smith, its president, tells me Canadian goods are woven into the fabric of his company.
We probably buy, 20 to 25% of our carbon steel from Canada.
Those rolls of steel are then texturized and sold to customers across North America.
Oppose tariffs. Tariffs are always a bad idea.
But not every single store in our area feels the same way about those tariffs, especially right here at the Made in America store in Elma, where everything is, you guessed it, made in America.
I love Canada, but I don't worry about tariffs because I'm all about Made in America.
Mark Andal, the owner of the Made in America store in Elma, wouldn't be paying these tariffs, but thinks they could help other businesses.
I don't mind tariffs at all. I think it'll help American companies because we're always trying to get back to where we were. American companies need all the help they can get.
And he thinks they might inspire more people to shop for American products.
If they have the fear that tariff are, raising prices, then just shop in your own country, shop within your borders, you'll be fine.
Meanwhile, Congressman Tim Kennedy doesn't think this is a good plan. He told reporters he's holding out hope the White House rescinds this, just like the federal funding freeze earlier this week.
Hopefully, they'll listen to us just like they did earlier this week, and they rescind this order as well.
As of Friday afternoon, plans to impose those tariffs will start this weekend.
China now saying that they will look to impose tariffs on some U.S. goods as well. What else do we know about the China response to the U.S. tariffs?
Yes, again, going exactly by the playbook like clockwork. At 1 p.m., seconds after that, China released its slew of countermeasures, pretty extensive this time round compared to the previous round in February. They're targeting up to 15% tariffs on a list of U.S. goods. I'm just going to go through them very quickly. 10% on pork, beef, soybean, sorghum, fruits, vegetables, and dairy products. The one on soybean, of course, had been highly anticipated. And 15% tariffs on wheat, cotton, chicken, and corn. So all of these are agricultural commodities. I would say that they are largely still less than proportional to the scale of the US tariffs, because we're talking about 10 to 15% tariffs from China versus 20% from Trump if you count in the first 10% plus the second round of 10%. And you look at the scale of it, the range of the goods covered. US tariffs cover all Chinese goods, but the Chinese tariffs are targeting specific sectors, mainly the agricultural sector. So it's a clear message here. While it's impactful, but China is signaling that they are open to negotiations. That was as much what the NPC spokesperson said at the presser earlier, that they're hoping that they can resolve these trade issues through consultations. Now, aside from tariffs, China also targeted other non-tariff measures, including adding 10 firms to a U.S. unreliable entity list, as well as prohibiting the sale of dual-use items to 15 U.S. entities. And of course, one of their favorite methods, which is to file a complaint to the WTO as well. But again, again, very clear signal that from the NPC spokesperson that they believe that bilateral trade is win-win for both sides, and they want to resolve this through negotiations.
Yeah, thanks for bringing the additional analysis to us, because we were trying to wrap our heads around the reaction in Asian markets today and the fact that a lot of these Asian indices have actually bounced back. A case of buy the rumor, sell the fact, and perhaps because the response was not as powerful as some people thought it was going to be. Just quickly, Min Min, how does this set us up for the NPC in the coming days?
Well, the NPC, I mean, of course, tomorrow is the government work report by Li Qiang that we are paying attention to, where he will outline the key economic targets for the year. We talked about that yesterday, the growth target, inflation target, and the stimulus measures. But again, as I mentioned, tariffs, the countermeasures has already been announced. What's next now is the negotiations, the back channel communications, and that high-level talk that hasn't really happened. We're waiting to see how that would change the calculus when it comes to trade. But China is really focused on building the resilience of its domestic economy to boost domestic consumption to counter the risk of tariffs.
Let's be clear. If Trump is imposing tariffs, we're ready. We are ready with $155 billion worth of tariffs, and we're ready with the first tranche of tariffs, which is $30 billion, which is already known. The ministers of public safety and immigration met with Tom Homan, the border czar of Trump, on Friday. It was a positive meeting, and we have a very strong border plan. We've invested in it. It is working. We're doing it for ourselves, and of course, it is part of the ongoing conversations we're having with the Trump administration.
Are people nervous? Yeah, they're nervous because of President Trump. We have to make sure, you have two choices here, folks. We roll over as a country and just let them run over us, or we fight like hell, like we've never fought before. I'm taking option 2. I'm fighting like hell, and we're going to protect Canada. He's underestimating the Canadian people, the resilience of the Canadian people, and the strength of the Canadian people. I said, number 1, I don't start a tariff war, but we're going to win this tariff war. Right off the hop, I've directed the LCBO, we're the largest purchaser of alcohol in the world, to remove every bit of U.S. alcohol off the shelves. I know my good friend, the governor of Kentucky, he's losing his mind right now. I said, you better talk to your president. Mitch McConnell, senior senator from Kentucky, they're losing their mind. We purchased over $1 billion of alcohol, 3,600 products, 35 states. It's gonna hit them. We call them the kitchen table issues. Then we're gonna cancel Starlinks right away from Elon Musk. Not that $100 million makes a difference for him, but it's principle. I've directed the procurement of over $30 billion of goods, not to go to the U.S., to make sure we buy Ontario first, and if we can't find it in Ontario and we can't build it in Ontario, we go across the country. I'm asking politely, until I implement it, every retail store, when you go look at the shelf talker that has the price, we need to see a Canadian flag on that price. A lot of people can't pick it up and scan it. So please work with us, or we're gonna legislate it. I'll tell you this, uranium for the US comes from Saskatchewan. I've had deep conversations with my good friend, closest ally, Scott Moe, the Premier of Saskatchewan. That uranium goes over to Port Hope, Ontario to get processed. From Port Hope, it goes down to get enriched, down to the US. I will not and cannot speak for Scott Moe. He's a patriot, he loves Canada, but if we got to stockpile our high-grade nickel here in Ontario and sell it to the world, so be it. And as for uranium, I'll leave that up to Scott to decide. The potash that fertilizes all their farming communities. As President Trump is going after our dairy farmers, we're sending them fertilizer, 87% of it is going to the US. And yeah, can they try to get potash everywhere else? They can, but they can't get it up the Mississippi River. So they're stuck with Canadian potash. Can they get uranium? Yeah, if they want to cozy up to Russia, which I see President Trump doing, you can try to get uranium there. But why would you do that? We want to ship more uranium, more potash, more nickel, more energy, and build an AMCAN fortress. I can't for the life of me figure out why this guy's attacking his closest neighbors, allies, and friend. A tariff on Canada is a tax on Americans. And I'm going to repeat that on NBC, CNN, Fox News, CNBC. I'm going to be hammering the airwaves to get that message to the Americans. They're going to get hurt. It's the wrong decision. But if they want to try to annihilate Ontario, I will do everything, including cut off their energy, with a smile on my face. So, and I'm encouraging every other province to do the same. Quebec, Manitoba, BC, we all have to act in unison. Out east, they rely on our energy. They need to feel the pain. They want to come at us hard, we're going to come back twice as hard.
About the Starlink deal, why not cancel that right now? Given what the president, the display in the Oval Office, you've been a strong supporter of Ukraine. We know that Starlink, there's been a problem with Starlink in Ukraine, and Mr. Musk, why not send a message right now to the Ukrainian people and to people in Canada and say this deal is done, we're not doing business with this guy?
I'm not going to start a tariff war. I'm not going to be the one that pokes the line, per se. But I can assure you, he comes at us, he's going to get a rude awakening. We're unlike any other country. You know, we have 41 million people, but we're powerful. We're powerful on energy. We're powerful on nuclear energy, on oil, on goods going back and forth across the border. We buy more off the United States than any other government in the world. And I always say, President Trump, you can't unscramble an egg. The supply chain's so intertwined. You just have to make a larger omelet. That's what you have to do. And we'll see how he moves on this. But we will respond, as sure as I'm standing here, tariff for tariff, dollar for dollar. And anything that I can do as a province, we're going to do.